Part 135. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1341. At this time, although he was infinitely small, he could still feel the omnipresent fluctuations, which also existed at this microscopic level. Read. A thought flashed through his mind: what kind of search power is this that can enter such a microscopic world? And it doesn't seem to weaken at all, exactly the same as the outside world. Soon the fluctuation swept over him. He could clearly feel that the spiritual pattern instruments he held consumed a lot of true power in an instant, and there were hundreds of different spiritual pattern instruments. His eyes narrowed slightly, revealing a trace of solemnity. This power is really unfathomable. He did not move, still keeping his hidden state, but changed to the next batch of spiritual pattern instruments. The spiritual pattern instruments just now will be placed, waiting to restore more power. This time he reduced the number of spiritual pattern instruments by January 5th. Just now, the mysterious fluctuation swept over, and he roughly calculated the consumption and proportion, and he had come to a conclusion. Scanning hundreds of spiritual pattern instruments at a time basically consumes 1/5 of their stored true power. He planned to reduce 1/5 of the spiritual pattern tools and increase the time of one round of exchange, so that these spiritual pattern tools could continue to circulate. An hour passed in a blink of an eye, and the second wave of scanning came again. Lin Yi was a little nervous. He didn't know whether Xiao would have any impact after reducing 1/5 of the spiritual pattern tools. The wave slowly swept over him, but this time the wave seemed to pause slightly for a moment. Lin Yi immediately felt this change, and his heart was in his throat. True destiny perseverance immediately bloomed, covering his consciousness and covering up all the fluctuations in his mind. The wave seemed to still not find him, but just paused for a moment and continued to move forward. But Lin Yi felt that things would not be so simple. He turned around and used True Destiny Unlimited to rush into the distance. His speed was very fast, and he had reached hundreds of kilometers in just a dozen seconds. After he arrived at a safe place again, his eyes flashed with the light of True Destiny Daija, and he stared at his previous position. Suddenly, a group of living dead people coming from all directions appeared near the place where he was just now. Those were the living dead in several nearby underground caves. After they appeared, various true power had erupted and were frantically searching every inch of land. Lin Yi took a deep breath, and a trace of solemnity appeared in his eyes. This is really a bit dangerous. Did you really detect something? The effect of this power cannot be underestimated. He observed quietly, and at least tens of kilometers of the area centered on where he had just been was searched. From top to bottom, no corner was spared, whether it was underground or even the underground connecting caves. All the living dead nearby united in all directions, in the sky and underground. He was slightly awed in his heart. Fortunately I walked fast, otherwise I would be surrounded. Although I might not be exposed, the danger would be greatly increased. Thinking of this, Lin Yi turned around and continued to speed up, leaving this area. He was going to a safer place. Time always passed quickly, and soon he came to a place similar to the eternal battlefield. This is an underground cave, with an area that can't be seen at a glance. A large number of intelligent life continued to fight, and it was still going on here. There are two different races fighting here, one is human, and the other is a race like the four-armed demon god. Lin Yi directly chose the race of the four-armed demon god and came to their headquarters quietly. The headquarters is a strange tower built of black rocks. There are also countless people inside performing various tasks. Soon Lin Yi chose a target, the weakest person in the entire tower. He seemed to be responsible for cleaning in the tower. He only had one true life in his body and less than 2 spiritual patterns on his body. His face was dull and without any expression. Under the effect of the spiritual pattern, Lin Yi silently turned into a speck of dust and came to him, hiding in his hair. He wanted to use the sky's breath to disrupt the scanning of the mysterious wave. Another hour passed in a blink of an eye. The third wave of 80 soul devices were slowly flashing, hiding Lin Yi's existence. A wave came from far to near, scanning everything in the cave. This tower was also unavoidable, and all the living dead were shrouded. Including those past beings projected from consciousness, they could not escape. However, they seemed to have noticed something was wrong at this time, and they were all engaged in various jobs like the other people in the palace. Even their consciousness became more ethereal and unpredictable. Lin Yi was also unable to lock their traces, and with his current understanding of the true destiny, he could not see these traces. When this mysterious wave swept over the person possessed by Lin Yi, the wave did not stop, but swept directly. And at the same time that the wave disappeared, Lin Yi had silently separated from the possessed person, quietly drilled into the ground, and went deeper underground. In just a dozen seconds, he was hundreds of miles away, without stopping for a moment, and found the next place. Less than a few seconds after he left, all the living dead in the cave moved. Countless searching true destinies enveloped the entire tower, conducting a detailed search of every corner of the tower. This search came so fast that it scared him. Lin Yi's face slightly condensed. Is my guess correct? This wave seems to be able to vaguely sense my existence. If I had stayed in this area just now, I would have been blocked. The true life effect emitted by the 80 spiritual pattern instruments seems to be completely unable to block my existence. But there seems to be a delay, and it will always take a few seconds to react. In other words, the mysterious existence behind this wave is not really omnipotent. Even if the obscure problem is detected, it takes time to react. So, there is still room for operation for the 80 spiritual pattern instruments. Thinking of this, Lin Yi breathed a sigh of relief. But I don't think this method may last too long. Sooner or later, the other party will react, and then there will be trouble. Lin Yi thought, and soon he had his next target. This time, he directly chose a living dead in an underground cave. He quietly possessed the other person's body and waited quietly for the next wave of scans to come. Time passed slowly, and the fourth round of scans began. This time, he still used 80 real spiritual pattern devices to hide himself. At the same time, he asked Brandy and others to push dozens of virtual spiritual pattern devices, which also covered him. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1342. The next moment, mysterious waves swept over him. This time there was no pause, and he did not foresee any danger. However, caution came first, so he left here immediately and hid in the distance to observe the cave. This time, no living dead appeared around him, searching the cave like a carpet. He took a deep breath, a hint of joy appeared on his face, and he knew what to do next. Time passed slowly, hour after hour, and he kept changing his position, each time using hundreds of different true life effects to hide. It fully demonstrates what it means to live until death. Finally, the time was approaching 24 hours, and Lin Yi felt slightly relieved. It's finally over, but I can't be careless this last time. I need to be more careful. At this time, the hundreds of spirit-patterned weapons in his hands had basically consumed most of their power, leaving less than 20% of their true power. He took a deep breath, with a serious look in his eyes. The fluctuation came again, and this time he chose to stay alone in the dirt. All the real spiritual weapons were activated at the same time, and the effect of more than 300 real spiritual weapons was earth-shattering. In an instant, he seemed to disappear from time, space, and everything, leaving no trace behind. Huge fluctuations roared past, and in the end no information from him was detected. It was not until the fluctuations swept away that Lin Yi slowly emerged from the void. He took a deep breath and a bright smile appeared on his face. The last scan, finally escaped. Although he avoided the scan, he still didn't stop here and turned around and left. Just as he left, the voice of the final order system sounded in his mind. Binders, please note that final task 1 has been completed. The crown's coordinates have been locked, and the lock is eternal. Once activated, the crowned one will definitely reveal his location. However, please note that after locking the coordinates, there is only one chance to use it. Once missed, the crowner will fix all defects and loopholes. Mission reward, the perfect true model of the transcendent. As the mechanical sound fell, a piece of information rushed into my heart. In an instant, all the information about the 7 true lives flashed through his mind. True life Taoist interpretation, true life root, true life boundless, true life perseverance, true life eternal life, true life immortality, and most importantly, true life infinity. This information contains every truth that makes up these truths. All these principles have the same characteristic, which is to derive all basic principles. Among them, he has obtained all the principles involved in the 6 true lives, and they have all been integrated into the original true lives, and finally became the final order system. His second set of true destiny was completely recreated based on these principles. At this time, his focus fell on the infinite true life, which is an ultimate true life composed of 3,000 different eternal qualities. In every eternal nature, there are countless basic principles. These principles merge together to complete an extremely huge cycle, and finally form the infinite true destiny. Seeing the message of unlimited life, Lin Yi had a bright smile on his face. But it didn't seem that simple to complete it. He found that there seemed to be some inexplicable phenomena hidden in the countless information. The infinite true life seems a bit ethereal. Countless principles and information have gathered together to form a huge system. It seems to be in some special state. This state made him feel a little threatening. Final order system, why the infinite life model gives me a dangerous feeling. The cold mechanical voice of the final order system slowly sounded. The emergence of any kind of ultimate true life is accompanied by huge dangers. The condenser will either succeed or die. There is a certain established law here, which is not affected by any force. Even if you are immortal, you cannot avoid this kind of continuous death, so once you want to condense the infinite life, please be prepared to die at any time. Hearing the answer from the final order system, I was shocked and understood why the first 7 true kings did not unite their true destiny. So that's it, these are the 7 original true kings. In the distant past, there was still no reason to complete the infinite life. The key reason is actually here, otherwise it will lead to death. His face changed uncertainly, and he began to carefully comprehend this final true destiny. Countless information is flowing in his mind, and he is dividing this information into categories and turning it into pure truths one after another. He is comparing these principles with the principles he possesses from the hundreds of millions of true lives he has received from the earth. At the same time, he also compared the billions of eternal qualities that he had condensed. Countless truths flowed through his mind, and he didn't know how long it would take before he could fully understand and digest them. 24 hours have passed in the outside world, and all the living dead have calmed down again. Everything seemed to be back to how it was in the past, but the mysterious scanning still didn't stop. An hour later, Lin Yi woke up under the threat of mysterious power. At this time, the voice of the final order system sounded in his mind. Binders, please note that because the system's 2 speculations have attracted the attention of the Crown, the entire death frontier will enter a period of close surveillance. This period of time will last at least the equivalent of 100 years on Earth. The system's suggestion is to lie dormant for a while, and at the same time the system releases the final mission to the final weapon. In the next period of time, you need to collect the final weapon. This weapon is the only way to kill the Crown, and it is made for the 7 original true kings. They exist at special coordinates and will not move with the coordinates, so it is not easy to find them. There are 3 final weapons in total, namely the Sky Sword, the Earth Sword, and the final one. You will know after you get the two weapons. You need to find the coordinates of these two weapons by yourself, and the system has no information about these two weapons. From this moment on, the system will enter a dormant state and will not give any instructions to avoid being noticed by the Crown. Final Mission 2 has a deadline. When the death boundary invades the past and reaches the source of the past, this mission will be a complete failure. The final order system will also enter the self-destruction program, and the future of the binder will be decided by you. Then, binder, I wish you good luck in martial arts. After the words fell, the voice of the final order system fell silent, and there was no sound at all. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1343. Lin Yi showed a trace of surprise on his face. He did not expect that the final order system would be so decisive and only leave him a string of information. Reading. Puckered his lips, Lin Yi had to smile bitterly. This system is really quick, just leaving me here. And gave me a task, Heaven Sword, Earth Sword. Where should I find these things? Lin Yi was a little indignant, but no one could give him information at this time. He took a deep breath, and a trace of thought appeared in his eyes. After thinking about it, he turned around and left here, returning to the desert save point. When he returned to the desert save point, he couldn't believe his eyes. This place has become a ruin, all the buildings have been destroyed, and it has completely become a dead place. What's going on? It's too scary. Thinking of this, he showed a trace of solemnity in his heart, carefully hiding himself, and began to wander around in the save point. The light of the true destiny flashed in his eyes, observing every inch of land here. There is no corpse here, only ruins everywhere. Soon he saw something of interest. He came to the bar of the desert save point. After entering the bar, he went straight to the depths of the bar, where there was a strange room, which he had seen when he first came here. He didn't dare to peek in because there was someone guarding it. Now that there was no one here, he looked boldly. When he entered the room, he saw a group of things emitting hazy white light. Looking at this group of white light, there were countless wonderful powers in it, a power he had never seen before. He felt an origin in it, which seemed to be the original power of all things. This power seemed to be connected to the entire save point, as if it was it that maintained the existence of the entire save point. He thought in his heart, is this the secret of the save point? If this thing can be controlled by me, does it mean that I can control a real save point? Even avoiding the eyes of the crowners. He had long noticed that the save point seemed to have a relationship with the crowners, and it seemed to be allowed to exist, and its purpose might be to seduce those rebels. What would happen if he took this save point? Can the death boundary find this save point? Do you know that the save point has been seized? A flash of heat flashed through his heart, and Lin Yi seemed to know what he should do next. The next moment, the brilliance of the true destiny in his eyes was operated to the limit. He was surprised to find that although his eyes saw a lot of things, he still couldn't see through this brilliance. Load the title Savior. As his thoughts fell, the next moment, his eyes seemed to break all restrictions and see the essence of all things in the world. The light ball in front of him no longer had any secrets in front of him, and he understood it instantly. When the brilliance of the true destiny dimmed, he already knew how to seize this thing. The brilliance of the boundless true destiny enveloped his hand and went directly into the light ball. He seemed to be able to see all the structures in the light ball, and using the characteristics of the boundless true destiny, it seemed to penetrate countless levels and reach a wonderful time and space. There is a special mark here, floating quietly here. Lin Yi's palm came to the front of this mark silently, and the brilliance of the root of true destiny was activated in an instant. The power to change everything fell directly on this mark. At the same time, the power of the true destiny and perseverance also erupted at the same time, directly isolating this mark from all connections with the outside world. In an instant, the essence of this mark was changed and turned into a new mark structure, and this mark was composed of the power of truth. The next moment, Lin Yi felt that his thoughts were connected to the entire desert safe place. A faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, the safety point suddenly shrank, and the Wanchaiwu appeared in front of him. Under his control, the safety point directly merged with the Wanchaiwu and became a strange space-time existence. The mysterious light ball appeared in the bedroom of the Wanchaiwu and merged with the weird magic cube that used to be. After doing all this, Lin Yi showed a bright smile on his face. The light ball in the safety point is a mysterious origin material, which can form a strange space-time that can resist the influence of the death boundary to a certain extent. However, this influence is cyclical, with a cycle of 12 hours. When the cycle weakens, this force will weaken, which will cause the invasion of the power of the death boundary. In order to maintain the existence of this substance, one thing must be consumed: true life. All save points exist by burning true life. At the same time, these true lives can be shattered by this force and turned into one true life fragment after another. One thing that can also be confirmed is that these mysterious origin substances are not born from the death boundary. Instead, they originally exist in this world, or in the future. He saw the picture of the future on this group of origin substances. This group of origin substances came from a possible future, but the future was swallowed by the death boundary, and the future collapsed into this group of origin substances. This substance was invaded by mysterious marks and turned into one safe point after another in the death boundary. He vaguely felt a brand new food chain. Safety points appear, and the living dead invade the safety points. After being killed, their true lives will also be thrown into the origin material to burn or shatter. The origin materials converted after these true lives are burned will be consumed in the process of maintaining the safety points. And this consumption can be understood as the erosion of the safety point by the death boundary. Then a further understanding is that the safety point is the stomach of the death boundary and also a trap. And the living dead are food. But it's strange. According to the control of the living dead by the crown, it should be easy to control them to die and become the nutrients of the origin material. What other reasons may there be? But I can judge one thing: the crown does not seem to have the ability to shatter the true life. Only these origin materials have the ability to destroy the true life. With countless information flowing in his mind, he had a vague idea. The eternity of true destiny has never changed. Even the crowner cannot change it? If that's the case, it proves that the crowner is not omnipotent. Thinking of this, he felt a little relieved. As long as he was not really invincible, there was still a lot to be done, and it was not completely hopeless. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1344. After absorbing the safety point, the Wanchaiwu has been exposed in an empty cave. Read. The strange thing is that the Wanchaiwu seems to have an inexplicable connection with the entire death boundary. Lin Yi can clearly feel this connection. With a slight movement in his heart, the Wanchaiwu disappeared in the cave as if it became illusory. Lin Yi knew that the Wanchaiwu had entered another time and space level. It seemed to be able to attach to the rules of the death boundary, and the whole thing became very ethereal and could not be discovered. With a slight movement in his heart, Lin Yi carefully felt that the Wanchaiwu seemed to be moving along the rules of the death boundary. When it appeared again, it had come to a huge plain, where there were endless coffins everywhere. The sky was dark, and it seemed that it would never change. Sitting in front of the French window, a hint of joy appeared in his eyes. I really didn't expect that after absorbing the safety point, it could still have this effect. However, his eyes also noticed the light group of the origin material. The movement of the Wanchaiwu consumed about 1% of the origin material, which was not a low consumption. Thinking of this, a complete true life appeared in his hand, without any consciousness. Throwing it away casually, the true life had fallen into the origin material. The true life was melting and dissolving rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye, and a strange substance flowed out from the melted true life. After the true life melted, it also turned into countless truths and merged into this ball of origin material. Looking at this ball of material flowing out of the true life, Lin Yi was thoughtful. It's actually essence. Judging from the quantity, it's clearly about 10 times the essence left by the living dead on the eternal battlefield. I see, I understand. After the origin material breaks the true destiny, countless truths and essences will be generated. All these things will be converted into origin material. But this is a one-time consumption, which will drain all the value of the true destiny. And the fighting on the battlefield will allow the true destiny to release a small part of the essence. The dead are not really dead, but sleep in coffins in other places. When the time is right, they will wake up again and join the battlefield again. It can be seen as recuperating and restoring their consumption. Essence. But this consumption has disadvantages. Finally, those living dead will gradually alienate and become living dead monsters in the second stage. I remember that there are countless layers in the death boundary. When you reach thousands of layers, you will pass through a black film. All the living dead there, whether inside or outside the coffin, have already shown different degrees of alienation. Can it be understood that the living dead on the battlefield are a kind of long-term battery? When they are completely alienated into monsters, they will impact the safety point. Finally killed, the twisted true life is integrated into the eternal material and digested, and all the utilization value is squeezed out. At this time, Lin Yi has connected all the scenes he has seen in the death boundary. He seems to have finally understood the purpose of the living dead. Like a pure dry battery, it is constantly consumed until it is finally squeezed out. Even his true life cannot be preserved and becomes the final fuel. This system is really cruel. All the true lives are calculated and become part of it. Even those who think they are alive are just the cremators in this plan. The purpose of their existence is to eliminate these completely alienated living dead and collect the foundation of the 4 pillars of heaven. Everything they do is constantly expanding the death boundary, completely closed, and there is no hope. The cruel truth of the death boundary made Lin Yi feel a little suffocated. Then what should I do next? Look for the heaven sword and the earth sword, the weapons left behind by the 7 original true kings. A special coordinate point, which means I want to find information from the past. With countless ideas flashing in his mind, he couldn't help but take a deep breath. Next, it will be troublesome. It seems that I have to let the Wanchaiwa come back to life. Since there is eternal matter, it will be convenient for me to implement the next plan. A new idea gradually came into Lin Yi's mind. The Wanchaiwa flickered slightly, and when he appeared again, he had come to a small dark cave. The Wanchaiwa is now an independent safe point. Sitting quietly in a small cave, it is attached to the rules of the death boundary, very ethereal. If it is not seen by the naked eye, other forces cannot detect its existence. Lin Yi sat in the Wanchi house, raised his hand and waved, and a spiritual pattern artifact orb appeared in his hand. The orb emitted a mysterious light, and Sakuramiya Shirley and others walked out of it. Their eyes fell on Lin Yi, and they only heard Lin Yi say, "Now we are temporarily safe, and the next step is to collect information bit by bit. But this will be a long process. You need to be careful and don't attract attention." Lin Yi used the true life source to create enough supplies in the Wanchi house. This will become a shelter in the future, and all living people can enter here. At the same time, he will also establish a huge organization here. As soon as he thought about it, the lobby space of the Wanchaiwa began to expand rapidly, and tables and chairs appeared out of thin air. In the blink of an eye, this place has become a huge bar hall with an area of thousands of square meters. From today, the Wanchaiwu will resume business. Our goal is to collect more twisted true lives. At the same time, collect information about the past. Of course, it will also exist as a task release platform to change the past model. Brandy and others nodded slightly. Okay, boss. Lin Yi nodded slightly. Everyone, be prepared for a long-term battle. The border of death may become very turbulent in the future. Sakuramiya Shirley and others heard this, and their eyes became solemn. In the basement of the Wanchaiwu, a brand new body has been created in front of Lin Yi, which looks exactly like Zhao Hongxia. A true life appeared in Lin Yi's hand, and he raised his hand and waved it, and the true life fell into this body. Zhao Hongxia slowly woke up from the haziness, and a trace of confusion appeared on his face. When he woke up completely, he suddenly found Lin Yi standing in front of him. Lin Yi? What's going on? She looked down at her body, wearing ordinary clothes, lying on the ground. I have saved you, and the contract between us has been completed. Hearing Lin Yi's words, Zhao Hongxia suddenly came back to her senses. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1345. At this time, she had already remembered that she should have died in that disaster. But now he seemed to be saved. Although he was full of disbelief, he quickly accepted the result. At this time, Lin Yi looked at her and said calmly, although I saved you, this is not a safe world, but a place called the border of death. Lin Yijin talked vividly and told Zhao Hongxia in front of him all the circumstances of the death boundary. Listening to what Lin Yi said, an incredible expression slowly appeared on Zhao Hongxia's face. His face also kept changing between pure and innocent. Only then did she realize that her resurrection was not necessarily a good thing. From now on, she faces real danger. But don't worry, Wanchaiwu will issue various tasks. Through these tasks, you can get contribution points, and then you can exchange for various kinds of help from the Wanchaiwu view. For example, spiritual weapons, true life, materials, etc. You can make yourself live better by constantly arming yourself. Lin Yi completely copied a set of things from this safe place in the world, and at the same time made some changes based on the characteristics of the Wanchaiwu view. Zhao Hongxia stood in the hall of Wanchaiwu, looking at Brandy and others, with a slight solemnity on her face. She could feel tremendous pressure from these people. Each one of them was not a simple person. With the arrival of Zhao Hongxia, the Wanchi room quickly became lively. One after another, humans on Earth were resurrected by Lin Yi. Lin Yi's first batch of resurrected people were all God-given ones from the past, and they were able to skillfully use their powers. They also knew each other, and they were soon able to form teams one by one to complete the tasks issued by Lin Yi. For example, now, everyone has received this task issued by Lin Yi. Everyone, there are about 100 people in the first batch of your resurrections. You are all God-given ones on Blue Star in the past, and you are also very familiar with your own abilities. The House of Everything is a safe spot and a special place within the boundaries of death. Your first task is to guard this place. Every night, the House of Everything will attract some stage 2 mutated living dead. You must kill them and obtain the twisted true life from them. These twisted true lives can be exchanged for some true life fragments from the House of All Things, as the basis for your survival in this world. If you want to survive, you have to pay a price. I hope you can all work together to survive. In the future, I will gradually resurrect people on Blue Star and continue to grow our team. Everyone, please get ready, the war is about to begin. As Lin Yi's words fell, the entire Wanchaiwu house underwent wonderful changes. Darkness enveloped the entire Wanchaiwu, and at this moment, the Wanchaiwu seemed to have changed into a different world. Some weird roars suddenly sounded, and the space in the Wanchaiwu room seemed to have undergone some changes, and it was connected to some kind of wonderful time and space. The roar outside became more and more shrill, quickly attracting the attention of everyone in the Wanqi house. Lin Yi looked at the God-givers of the earth. Now it's up to you. Get ready to fight. The door to the Wanqiwu house slowly opened, and everyone in the room looked outside. There was a small cave outside, but a dark area appeared at the boundary of the cave. One after another, the second stage living dead were walking out of the darkness. None of the living dead are normal. They have the faces of intelligent creatures, but their bodies have completely transformed into inhuman beings. Looking at these things, all the God-givers were trembling slightly. They had never seen such a terrifying thing. Lin Yi obviously wanted them to fight these things. They looked at each other, various emotions flashing through their minds. Just listen to Lin Yi say, "Everyone, fighting is necessary. The contract between us has ended. There is no need for me to protect you. If you want to survive in this world, you must show your worth." When everyone heard Lin Yi's words, their hearts trembled slightly. Zhao Hengxia turned to look at her teammates, her face darkened slightly. "Let's go, let's also try the power of the living dead in this world. Now that we're here, running away won't solve the problem." Lin Yi's eyes fell on Brandy and the others. "Follow them and help them if they are in danger." After hearing Lin Yi's words, everyone nodded and followed them out of Wanqiwu. The area of this small cave was only a few hundred square meters, and about a dozen second stage living dead walked out of the dark boundary. The Earth's God-givers worked as a small team and each faced a second stage living dead. They each selected a target and went directly to meet it. Zhao Hengxia was the captain of his team. He said coldly, "Suppression begins." The next moment, his body was filled with the power to control his mind. The power instantly fell on the oncoming second stage living dead. The living dead man felt his power attack, and a strange wave immediately burst out from his body, and the charging body also paused slightly. At the same time, a series of rays of light rushed up from behind Zhao Hengxia, instantly submerging the second stage living dead. Rumble. Various collisions and explosions sounded one after another, and the outside of the Wanqi house became a battlefield. The war was going on all the time, and Lin Yi just stood outside the French window and watched quietly. In fact, after the Wanqi house was integrated into the safety point, it was an indestructible fortress in itself. These living dead who were attracted to it actually couldn't rush in. But their attacks would still have a certain impact on the Wanqi house. However, this impact was under Lin Yi's control. He could use the massive spiritual pattern tools in the Wanqi house at any time to beat any invader into ashes. However, he didn't plan to take action this time. He needed to let these people adapt to the cruelty of the death border. Only in this way could he hone some useful talents. They had only one goal, which was to find news about the two swords of heaven and earth for him in the future. This battle was not difficult. A dozen second stage living dead did not last long in the face of the siege of hundreds of God-given people. After these God-givens came to the border of death, they had completely mastered their true destiny. Each person's true destiny was not strong, and some were not even at the world-shaking level, but a team of 10 could handle most dangers. After fighting for more than 10 minutes, they successfully eliminated this group of invading second stage living dead. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1346. Zhao Hengxia looked at the monster fragments on the ground and the true life flashing in the fragments in a trance. The true life has become extremely distorted and covered with strange black lines. Sakura Miyaswili's voice sounded in their ears, "This is your achievement, a distorted true life. You can use it to exchange the true life fragments with the Wanqiwu, and at the same time pay for the time and materials to survive in the Wanqiwu." Zhao Hongxia picked up the distorted true life and looked at it silently, exuding an indescribable evil. Just seeing it, she felt her body was chilling, as if this thing would infect her body. A group of people returned to the Wanchaiwu in a trance, and it took a long time for each of them to come back to their senses. The battle just now was not fierce. They divided the work among themselves, just like solving strange stories on Earth. It was even much easier than on Earth, because these distorted second-stage living dead can be killed by the power of true life. It is much easier to solve than the strange stories that cannot be killed. At this time, they came to the bar and began to exchange true life fragments. This work was done by Brandy, who had a spiritual pattern tool in his hand, which was of the reconnaissance type and could easily identify the level of each true destiny. Lin Yi set the rules that the Wanchaiwu would charge a 10% handling fee, and the remaining 90% would belong to them. This fee was not high, and basically met the fees of all security points. The cost of staying in the Wanchaiwu for a day was also one true destiny fragment. If you voluntarily go out to fight the invaders, you can get a fragment, loot, and contribution points. Basically, these procedures are copied from the security point. However, in the Wanchaiwu, contribution points have another function, that is, you can ask the people in the Wanchaiwu to help them solve some unsolvable troubles, and you can also offer bounties in the Wanchaiwu. All tasks are protected by Lin Yi's contract, and anyone who violates the contract will be killed by Lin Yi. After completing the first task, almost every one of these people got 4 or 5 true destiny fragments. They also had a general understanding of the rules of the store. The Wanchaiwu also has special guest rooms that can be rented for them to rest, and they also get 1 true destiny fragment every day. As for food, 1 fragment of true life can be enjoyed here for 30 days. These people thought about it and knew that the most important thing now was to settle down temporarily by hunting the second stage of the living dead. A few days passed in a blink of an eye. The Wanchaiwu was bustling, and hundreds of people appeared here. They drank and chatted, or played poker, played billiards, and enjoyed leisure entertainment. There were also many TVs in the bar, playing various programs. The content of these programs was not from the Earth, but from countless planets in the land of marine life. There has been countless development there, and those who were once rescued by Lin Yi have multiplied for many generations. Most people have obtained immortality, but a considerable number of people did not survive, but went to extinction in various events. Similarly, technological civilization has also developed in that world. There will naturally be no shortage of such entertainment programs. After the information is extracted, it can be played directly in Wanchaiwu, which is just the transformation of information. There are also a large number of people living in the residential room on the 2nd floor of Wanchaiwu every day. A considerable number of them cannot accept the current world. The cruelty here has turned them into dead otakus in the death boundary. But they still need to go to work and earn enough life fragments before they can continue to stay at home. In a few days, almost all the godsons on the original Earth were transformed by Lin Yi. They also formed hundreds of teams and began to gradually adapt to this death boundary. Every day, the essence obtained by the Wanchaiwu from the death boundary is increasing. Hundreds of people work for the Wanchaiwu and can get 1/10 of the total income every day. Half of it is used to maintain the operation of eternal materials. The massive expansion of the Wanchaiwu and the growth of the upstairs space are all consumption. His income is about 1/20th of everyone. All these essences are used by him to extract eternal properties, corresponding to the 3,000 eternal properties of the infinite true destiny. However, he found that there are almost no eternal properties that he holds that are completely in line. After extraction, it must be broken and absorbed, and then reintegrated. This is a destined long process. Even if all the eternal principles are extracted, it is not necessarily possible to complete these 3,000 eternal properties. He needs a lot of time to truly complete the basic components of True Destiny Unlimited. Sitting in front of the French window, Lin Yi looked at the excitement in the bar with a faint smile on his face. Finally, it's settled for the time being. Let's take our time with the next thing. In the passage of the underground cave, a man was moving forward with a nervous expression. A trace of fear flashed across his face. He was a member of a mysterious organization named Brank, a race similar to Westerners, but a living dead. However, he knew that he was a living dead and was controlled by some kind of power. But this was not the most important thing. The important thing was that he accidentally discovered some secrets from the mysterious organization he belonged to. And because of this secret, he was being hunted down. Once caught up, he would surely die. He was escaping carefully at this moment. He passed through a passage and soon came to a cave. When he came here, a trace of astonishment appeared on his face. What is this? A house? Why is there a house here? A two-story building appeared in front of him, which was extremely dazzling in this underground cave with an area of no more than 300 square meters. He found that this seemed to be a dead end with only one passage. His face suddenly changed. Damn, I took the wrong road. He turned around and wanted to leave. At this moment, the door of the house slowly opened and a group of people walked out. It was a group of fully armed people, about 6 in number, and they were all filled with the fluctuations of spiritual pattern instruments. When these people saw Blank, their faces changed and they looked at him vigilantly. However, they did not attack, but bypassed him and left the passage. Blank looked at these people, his eyes lit up slightly. Please go slowly, can I ask you a question? The people who were about to leave turned around and looked at him after hearing what Blank said. One of the men thought for a while and said, what do you want to ask? Excuse me, what is inside this house? The man looked at him, thought for a while and said, it's the Wanchi room, a safe place. The house of everything I created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1347. You can repair inside, or exchange for spiritual patterns, or even true life, as long as you pay for the true life fragments. Read. But I'm afraid you can't get in. After saying that, the man led everyone away without looking back. At this time, Blank was slightly relieved. It turns out to be a safer place. It seems that there are living people inside. I am a living dead in the first stage. I haven't cracked and twisted yet, so I can communicate. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. Maybe I can get some help. Thinking of this, he was slightly uneasy and walked to the door in a few steps. Dong dong dong. The door of the Wanchai was slowly opened, and Absinthe's appearance appeared in his eyes. Hello, respected living dead guest. Please come in. Listening to Absinthe's words, Blank showed a bitter smile on his face, and also a little surprised. Originally, he thought he still needed to negotiate in exchange for some help, but he didn't expect the other party to let him in directly. As a member of a mysterious organization, he naturally knew more information than ordinary zombies. There are living people and zombies in the death border. Those living people have never died and are alive when they come to the death border. And all the zombies have died before coming here, but they are resurrected here. And all the dead and resurrected people will be controlled and influenced by the mysterious existence. Only a limited number of people can be isolated and avoid this control through various methods. The zombies and the living have always been hostile, at least on the surface. However, as a member of a mysterious organization, he naturally knows that there are some tacit understandings under the surface. That is, the mysterious organization of the zombies will never attack safe points, nor will it attack those living people. There is no conflict between the two. Only those zombies who are controlled and the zombies who are completely split in the second stage will go to war with the living, especially in some special times. Following Absinthe into the bar, Blank found that his identity did not seem to attract too much attention. Even if someone saw him, they would only look at him for a moment. However, people who were very close to him would naturally change seats with him, as if they wanted to keep a distance from him. Blank went directly to the bar and took out a fragment of his true destiny from his arms. I need some food. I wonder if there are any spiritual pattern instruments here that can be exchanged. Brandy looked at Blank in front of him with a smile on his face. We can exchange a lot of spiritual pattern instruments here, please take a look. As he said that, he had already taken out a jade plate and placed it in front of Blank. Blank took the jade plate and instantly felt a stream of information flowing into his mind. The information flashed, and more than tens of thousands of spiritual pattern instruments appeared in his mind. Each of these spiritual pattern instruments made him feel excited, but the prices were quite expensive. After a preliminary browse, the lowest priced ones cost hundreds of true destiny fragments, which was twice as expensive as the spiritual pattern instruments outside. Double the profit, this is too shady. However, as he continued to browse, he soon discovered that the spirit pattern tools were divided into two major categories. One category is real spirit pattern tools, and the other category is virtual spirit pattern tools. What he noticed just now were all real spirit pattern tools. The value of virtual spirit pattern tools seems to be reduced by half. That's about right. He carefully selected, and soon he saw 3 virtual soul tools, which were just enough to complete his combat system. But he didn't buy blindly, but looked at Brandy. Do you accept all kinds of items here? Brandy smiled slightly. Of course, we accept everything here, as long as the things you take out are valuable enough. Blank thought about it, a trace of struggle appeared on his face, and suddenly said, what if it's news? News about the 4 pillars of heaven, the original true king. Brandy's face condensed slightly when he heard this. What price do you want? I want these 3 virtual spirit pattern tools, Brandy directly stated his request. Hearing this, Brandy frowned deeply. But there is a problem. How do you prove that the value of your information is comparable to the 3 spiritual pattern instruments? Blank smiled slightly. I can reveal a little bit. The information is related to the mysterious item they left behind. Legend seems to be an item that can save everything. Brandy's heart moved when he heard this, and he nodded slightly. Do you know what it is or where it is? I know some clues that may point to the location of this thing. Brandy thought slightly. In fact, he was communicating with Lin Yi. Promise him and get the news. Brandy received Lin Yi's order and knew what to do in his heart. Very good, I have evaluated your information and it is worth this value. Please follow me. With that, Brandy took Blank away from here, and a few steps later they came to a separate room in the hall. Because of the expansion of the hall, Lin Yi built some separate rooms. The purpose of these rooms is to facilitate some secret transactions and to keep them confidential. In a dimly lit room, 3 spiritual pattern instruments appeared in Brandy's hands, all placed on a table. Sir, these are the 3 spiritual weapons you want. Now please tell me, what is the truth of the news? Here's the thing, I'm a member of a mysterious organization. I can't tell you what organization it is. Because once it's exported, it might attract someone's attention. I accidentally learned that the organization is collecting some information about the 4 pillars of heaven. It seems to be related to something. Maybe it was luck that I was one of the people collecting this information. I got a piece of it by chance. There are some scattered information records on this fragment. It seems to have been left behind by the person known as the original king. The content above is that they seem to have left something behind. But the specific location is not recorded on it. When Brandy heard this, she said with a trace of disappointment in her eyes. If it's just this information, I'm afraid it's not that valuable. It's not enough to exchange for 3 spiritual weapons. Location, I can provide the location where I found this fragment. I can also provide that after getting these fragments, Some people in the organization went to a place. I also know where that place is. Brandy looked at Blanc in front of him, frowned slightly and said, "You betrayed your organization." Blanche sneered when he heard this. "It's not that I betrayed them, but that they wanted to kill me and silence me. Just because I saw something I shouldn't have seen. I had no choice but to run away to protect myself. The house of everything I created." Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1348. If I can use this information to exchange for some supplies from you, it will be worth it? Brandy nodded slightly. If that's the case, it's not impossible to talk. Blanc took a deep breath, and a trace of thought appeared in his eyes. These information can be exchanged for these three things, right? Brandy nodded slightly. Okay. Blanc nodded with great satisfaction, and told all the information he knew. Finally, he took the three spiritual pattern tools and left here excitedly. At this time, Lin Yi sat in front of the French window, analyzing the news he had just received. Among the news that Blanc brought just now, there is only one that is most important. The original True King did leave something behind, and these things have been searched for by someone. The people who are looking for them are the mysterious organization among the living dead. From various battlefields, Lin Yi has determined that not all the living dead are under control. Some of the living dead are controlled by the strong who projected their power in the past. These people know a lot of secrets, and it is not impossible for them to know that the original True King left behind weapons. They are a group of people who are looking for the flaws of the death boundary. For countless years, they have made various efforts. The Four Pillars Heavenly Realm definitely knows more about the death boundary than Lin Yi. Thinking of this, his heart moved slightly. It seems that I will find this group of people. Maybe we can get the news of the two swords of heaven and earth from them. It is not impossible to get these two things from them. The sharp blade heaven of the Four Pillars Heaven. The Four Pillars Heaven is divided into 5 parts: the Four Blade Heavens, the Moruo Heaven, the Eastern God Heaven, the Western God Heaven, and the most important Zongwei Heaven. Among them, there is a pillar in each of the 4 heavens, supporting the entire Four Pillars Heaven. When the death boundary swallowed up the Four Pillars Heaven, the pillars collapsed, the world collapsed, and countless fragments merged into the death boundary. No one knows where that fragment is. However, there are still some obvious places that can be judged as the fragments of the Four Pillars Heaven. That is, the places with the remaining pillars are some special areas of the death boundary. It is said that the area still has the power of the Four Pillars of Heaven, which can resist the erosion of the power of the death boundary. However, it is full of terrifying time and space turbulence, as well as some dangerous forces and existences. Most people who enter it will find it difficult to appear again. There is also a Jedi in the death boundary. It is not an easy task to explore there. And the fragments of the pillars of the Blade Heaven seem to be the place where the mysterious organization where Blanc is located is going to explore. Should I go and take a look? A trace of thought appeared in his eyes, and Lin Yi's heart jumped slightly. But this Blanc seems to be a living dead. Is his words true or false? Or is it a trap? At this time, Lin Yi had to think about this question. Although it has been a long time since the final order system calculated the crowner, he has never forgotten the crowner's reaction at that time. It was very intense, and it was impossible to let it go so easily. He must continue to search for the final order system in secret. You can go and take a look, but you must not enter rashly. The risks are still unknown. Thinking of this, he did not hesitate and directly created a new clone projection. After equipping several true life and spiritual pattern instruments that are good at reconnaissance and life-saving, he left the Wanchai-Wu. Lin Yi walked in the passage and headed towards the wreckage of the sharp blade Tian pillar. He moved very quickly, and could advance hundreds of kilometers in a blink of an eye, passing through one cave after another without restraint. But every 10 minutes or so, he would stop to recover his consumption. Time passed by minute, and he didn't know how many days had passed. He finally crossed at least millions of kilometers and tens of thousands of underground caves and came to a strange ground world. The sky here was shrouded in darkness, and in the distance of the darkness there was a violent chaotic time and space, which was like the end of the world, destroying everything. This chaotic time and space covered at least tens of thousands of square kilometers. The cracks and distortions of time and space that can be seen everywhere appeared continuously, tearing everything that appeared within this range to pieces. There seemed to be a huge mountain hidden in the huge broken storm. Lin Yi quickly approached there and soon came to the border of this area. Looking at the area covered by countless storms, a glimmer of exploration flashed in his eyes. This is the true destiny, which can see all the real scenes and any illusions will be seen through. It is a good exploration type of true destiny. Is that the fragment of the sharp blade sky? It seems to be the time and space around the pillar of heaven. Could it be that the original true kings put the weapons they made there? I wonder which one it will be, the sword of heaven or the sword of earth. There is also a third weapon. I should be able to get the information only if I get the first two. Thinking of this, a glimmer of thought flashed in his eyes. Looking at the terrifying giant time and space storm area in front, it is not a simple thing to get in. With a glimmer of true destiny in his eyes, he kept looking for the flaws of this time and space storm. Soon he found that the storm here was too broken. And there is also a unique power that makes these space-time storms even more powerful. A slight touch will tear everything apart. What a trouble! At this moment, he suddenly saw several figures approaching here in the distance. His eyes lit up slightly, and a glow of a spiritual pattern device spread from his body. This spiritual pattern device is called Return to Dust, which can make the user as inconspicuous as dust. At this time, Lin Yi has turned into dust, quietly waiting for these people to approach. A few minutes later, 3 people came here. They were wearing completely different clothes. One is a strange human with blonde hair and even golden skin, wearing a metal battle armor, looking very violent. One is an ordinary human, wearing a white robe, looking extraordinary and handsome. There is also a woman, wearing a tight black combat suit, with a curvy figure. A head of flaxen hair, black eyes, delicate features, holding a golden spear in hand, but a very cold face. The moment he saw these people, Lin Yi smelled a familiar scent. These people lack something, the consciousness of the living dead. They are projections of people in the past. The first time he saw them, Lin Yi recognized these people. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1349. The leader of the 3 was a handsome man in white. His eyes showed a hint of contemplation. You too, as far as I know, there are probably quite a few people who have received this news. I feel there is something wrong here. It is very likely a trap. I don't recommend going in directly. We wait outside. What do you think? The man in golden body nodded slightly. I think so too. I don't believe that the legendary things will appear so easily and be known by a wide range of people. No matter how you look at it, it seems that someone is behind it, and the purpose is probably to lure us into the trap. The beautiful woman on the side had a sneer on her lips. I'm afraid there are quite a few people who think the same as us. No matter who moves, we can't move. Let's see the result first. If someone really finds that thing, it won't be too late to take action. The 3 discussed, and then, a wonderful power of destiny enveloped them, and then they disappeared. Lin Yi was not surprised to see this scene. Even he could sense that something was wrong with this matter, and naturally others were no exception. But such a clumsy method, is it really done by the crown or the manager? But why, it seems to have no benefit for them. Thinking of this, he was confused again. But he had made up his mind and waited quietly for news. Time passed by, and people came one after another, but some of them showed their tracks, and some did not. The more people came, the more Lin Yi felt that this was a trap. In the blink of an eye, a few days passed. It seemed that nothing happened in the storm, no fighting, no explosion, and nothing they expected appeared. But those who came here were not small characters. Everyone hid well, without any impatience, and waited quietly. In the darkness, a fat man in a black robe appeared here with a sly look. His eyes rolled straight, looking at the mysterious fragments of the four pillars of heaven, and his heart was itching. He took a deep breath and took out a spiritual pattern tool from his hand. This spiritual pattern tool exuded a layer of illusory light, slowly enveloping him. Then, he became illusory, as if he didn't exist. After making preparations, the fat man quickly approached the outer edge of the space-time storm. He was hidden in the invisible, and he also showed some fluctuations when he rushed into the storm. These fluctuations were enough to be noticed by many people. Here comes a fearless person. It's really interesting that someone actually wants to step in. Is it a bait? The thoughts of each person kept rising, but no one showed any trace. This fat man is a flexible fat man, and he is wrapped in a wonderful power. Whenever he encounters fragments of the space-time storm, he easily avoids them as if he had expected it, and at the same time he will step on these fragments to use the force to move forward. He is like a kangaroo, landing accurately on the fragments of the space-time storm, and then bouncing. Soon he rushed into the storm and disappeared completely. Many people noticed the fat man's flexible performance, and a hint of surprise appeared in their eyes. This guy is quite sensitive. At this time, someone seemed to recognize the fat man. It's a tomb robber. I didn't expect this guy to be projected to the present. A mysterious man with a pale face looked at the direction where the tomb robber disappeared with a little surprise. Next to him, there were also two people whose past consciousness was projected, with different expressions on their faces. I didn't expect to see him again in this era. He has disappeared in our era. There is a legend that he has died long ago. Even he has projected his consciousness to the present. After all, the past has disappeared, and all traces of our existence will be erased. There will be no chance anymore. No matter how much of a Lone Ranger he is, he will not be able to sit still after knowing this information. The thoughts of several people were low and communicating. They could confirm the identity of the fat man who took action. Lin Yi was hiding in the dust alone, quietly observing everything. Seeing someone take action, he was also slightly surprised, but he still would not follow in. I hope you can find out something. Time passed slowly, and a murderous light suddenly rose from the depths of the storm. A pure black sword light shot out from the pillar of heaven, and it seemed to have the power to tear everything apart and crush everything. This terrifying fluctuation shocked everyone. They felt a nearly infinite power, which reminded them of the crowner. Everyone who could be projected here was an absolute protagonist and supreme power in their era. Some of them have even existed since the beginning of everything. What they have experienced and seen is beyond people's imagination. The moment they noticed the black light, they seemed to have judged what it was. The terrifying black light connected the sky and the earth, and instantly tore through the terrifying space-time storm area. Lin Yi was stunned when he saw this scene. It's really one of the two swords of heaven and earth. The next moment, something even more shocking happened. The black light shattered, and countless fragments turned into countless swords, falling from the sky to all directions. Where the sword light is, there is a sword. This sword energy seems to have penetrated the entire death boundary, and the swords are spread all over the world in an instant. Countless people hiding outside the time and space storm were stunned in an instant. They understood what was going on at the first time. The mysterious weapon seemed to be hidden in these countless swords and could not be found at all. Unless all the swords can be collected together and tested countless times, it can be determined which one is the real mysterious weapon. At this time, the dark sky seemed to have changed. 3 pairs of eyes slowly opened, and these eyes fell into the death boundary, as if searching for something. But then these eyes slowly closed, and a strange voice sounded in everyone's heart. "Find the real sword and give it to me, you will get freedom and life." Hearing the voice in the dark, everyone's heart moved. Countless living dead, whether they know they are controlled or not, have fallen into a crazy search. They searched for all the swords they saw, and then conducted various tests. A large number of managers appeared in every corner of the cave. They are responsible for examining all the mysterious swords collected by the living dead, trying to find the one their master needs. The chaos that swept across the entire death frontier reappeared. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1350. Lin Yi looked at the shocking scene in front of him, but his expression was changing. "Read. What's going on? Is it really the heaven sword or the earth sword? It feels strange no matter how you look at it. It didn't appear earlier or later, but it appeared after I completed the final task. Did the original True Kings do this on purpose? Damn, this is a disguised way to increase the difficulty of my task, making it so grand. And this final task too doesn't seem to have any rewards, why am I so unlucky?" Lin Yi's mind was full of question marks. He felt that these original True Kings were not reliable at all. But this was just a thought, he knew these people must have a deep meaning. Or, are they trying to muddy the water? Just as he was thinking, he had already set off and went silently towards the fragments of the sharp blade sky. In the state of returning to dust, he drilled into the dense storm like a ghost. At this time, the storm was directly cut from the middle because of the previous attack. Even the space-time storm seemed unable to move forward in this area. The whole storm area became extremely chaotic. Lin Yi rushed into it, carefully controlling himself, using the true destiny to see the truth, locking all the dangers, and moving towards the inside little by little. At this time, he had some doubts in his heart. The real heaven sword or earth sword should still be in this time and space. Because he really couldn't believe that the original True King would not know the danger of spilling the sword outside. Completely random, that's the same for him, he may not be able to find the heaven sword or the earth sword. Then the most likely possibility is that these two weapons are still hidden here. There are all sleight of hand and bait outside, and there should be many people who haven't noticed this at this time. But I can think of it, and others may not think of it. The original 7 True Kings must have made arrangements. It took him a full half an hour to enter the fragments of the sharp blade sky. After entering here, he seemed to have entered another world, a normal world. There are still many plants growing on the ground, and at a glance, a huge mountain stands in the distance. At this time, the mountain was split in the middle by something, and was directly split into 2 halves, turning into a huge canyon. Lin Yi took a deep breath, and a trace of thought appeared in his eyes. His eyes swept across the whole world. There was no trace of animals here, only plants. And most of the plants were very short shrubs, not even 1-meter high trees. Seeing this scene, he thought about it and shook his head slightly. It seems that the collapse of this world is very serious, and even higher life cannot support it. Thinking of this, he continued to go to the mountain. Floating around, in a blink of an eye, more than an hour passed, and he came to the bottom of the split mountain. This mountain is very large, covering an area of at least thousands of square kilometers. Such a wide mountain was actually cut in the middle. In the middle of the mountain are countless uneven gravel and rock walls, spreading all the way to the deepest part of the mountain range. Lin Yi came to the edge of the cut mountain, and a strong power fluctuation that made him feel terrified still remained here. He could clearly feel the terrifying power that killed and destroyed everything. This power had an infinite flavor. Is this the power of Jidao Zhenming? Could it be that the so-called Heaven Sword and Earth Sword are weapons made of Jidao Zhenming? Lin Yi felt that this was very likely. After seeing the power of the crowner, he deeply understood that only Jidao Zhenming could resist this power. As one of the 7 original true kings, it was not impossible to create Jidao Zhenming with all his strength. Lin Yi moved silently along the split canyon to the depths. He wanted to see if there were any clues left there. The deeper he went, the stronger the residual power became, and the greater the threat it brought to him. Every residual power fluctuation could wipe him out. Lin Yi controlled his clone, using a true power and a spiritual pattern device on his body to move carefully, not daring to be careless. For some reason, he always felt that his root just avoided the residual fluctuations of power one after another. It was as if this route was naturally arranged for him. Suddenly, a surprising idea flashed through his mind. This is a bit wrong. Could it be that the 7 original true kings had seen the scene many years ago? They have prepared a way for me. There must be something left for me in the center of the canyon. The strong sense of disharmony immediately made him understand something. He pursed his lips slightly. It seems that these true kings are not fools. They have arranged everything long ago and are waiting for me to come here and get what they left. Thinking of this, he began to move forward, but the whole process was still cautious. Lin Yi felt as if the whole thing was arranged. His clone continued to move forward, and about a few hours passed. While cautiously moving forward, along an absolutely safe road, he came to the center of everything silently. Here he found a stone platform with a sharp depression on it. He walked over a few steps and found that it seemed to be the place where the sharp blade was inserted after a careful look. Seeing this, he couldn't help but frowned. Is it really not here? Then how do I find it? This is an open area of several hundred square meters, with a canyon 100 meters wide spreading to both sides. This stone platform is the very center of the canyon and the place where the mysterious power originates. Lin Yi stood in front of the stone platform and carefully looked at the stone platform with deep penetration marks. A trace of doubt flashed in his eyes. If they really flew away, why would they leave an absolutely safe road behind? This kind of extraneous thing is totally unnecessary. No, there must be something I overlooked. Lin Yi's eyes flickered, looking for any trace of reality. The stone platform is about a meter in diameter. The indentation in the middle is about 2 fingers wide and half a meter deep. An image flashed through his mind. A sword was inserted in the center, reaching a depth of half a meter, countless years ago. His eyes swept over the stone platform. It looked very ordinary. It was a purely circular stone platform. It was cut very neatly and was obviously not natural. In addition, there are broken rocks all around. At a glance, they should all be the remains of the mountain that was torn apart by the sword energy just now.